Hello and welcome to Starside Chat episode 34. Joining me as always is my co-host Aaron.
Hello.
And I'm Zach Owens. So Aaron, tell me, what have you been up to?
Zach, I have some big news for you.
Okay.
This week on Monday, which was yesterday as we're recording this, a little inside baseball about when we record podcasts. But Monday, a Culver's opened up in the town that I live in.
Ooh. I used to work at Culver's when I was in high school.
I know, but I always think about you whenever I go into a Culver's.
I haven't had Culver's in a while.
I love a Culver's butter burger. I have to say, I don't know if we've talked about this in the podcast. Well, I don't know why we would have, but I used to only eat cheeseburgers with just cheese and lettuce on them, and then recently I started eating burgers as they come to me, without any alteration whatsoever. And I did it at McDonald's and Wendy's, and I did Culver's, and Culver's was the best one in that way.
Well, as someone who worked there in high school, I would maybe be a little bit biased, but I always thought that their cheeseburgers were the best.
They're so good. And they have those cheese curds and their crinkle cut fries, and there's a flavor of the day with their custard. Or is it ice cream? Is it custard or ice cream?
It's custard. Not so affiliated with Culver's at all, but
not sponsored by Culver's.
But if they want to sponsor us, I'm down.
That's the biggest news that's happened in my life recently. What about you?
Yeah, not a whole lot going on lately. Just back pain and doing schoolwork.
No.
So yeah, we didn't record last week, so it's been a while. But
I have a question for you. We talked last time about I don't remember if we did it on the podcast or not, about that new Taco John's quesadilla taco, and you got it. How was it?
It was pretty good. I mean, obviously, I went there mainly for the potato olays because that's the reason to go to Taco John's. But
so good.
Yeah, it was good. It was. I think it needs to be a little bit more like grilled and crunchy.
That's what I wanted. Yeah, I was based on the pictures. It seems like it's gonna have a crunchy outside, but it does not.
Well, so when you think quesadilla, you definitely think that this is like a tortilla with cheese in the middle that has been grilled on both sides. And so it's like, maybe it's just because that's how they do it at most other like American Mexican places, but I don't know. That's what I wanted it to be, and instead it was basically a soft shell taco that had cheese in the middle.
Yeah, it's an issue.
It's not bad though. It's solid. Anyway, we should probably move into the news of the week.
Not a great way to segue out of that.
There's not. So why don't you tell us about the hot new trailers that are coming up this week? I guess I put a lot of these in here.
You put a lot of these on here.
I know. I don't know if you've seen all of these, but I feel like the last 2 weeks it has just been a massive dump of new trailers on YouTube, and they're really loud in my headphones right now. But the first one that came up that got my attention was a movie called The Dead Don't Die by Jim Jarmusch. I don't know if you're a Jarmusch fan or not, but I have seen
Broken Flowers and Ghost Dog, but only those two.
I like a lot of his movies. I didn't necessarily love Only Lovers Left Alive, but...
Oh, I saw that too. I forgot about that.
But it was all right. And this movie maybe it seems a little bit more Wes Anderson-y, just in the tone of it, and just because of the fact that the trailer has, I think it's a Rolling Stones song over the soundtrack, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember what it is exactly. I'm not listening to it at the moment, but it looks really funny. And watch that trailer and listen to the way Adam Driver says ghouls, and you'll want to listen to it again because it's hilarious and great. I don't know. The whole zombie thing, I'm usually pretty tired of. Like, I feel it's pretty played out, but I like Bill Murray. I like Adam Driver. I like Tilda Swinton, and I like Jim Jarmusch. So.
Who's doing a crazy accent in this movie.
She is. Well, she can play like the craziest things and do it in such a genuine way that you buy it. So
yeah.
I'm down for that. The second trailer I put in here was a new Amazon show called Too Old to Die Young by Nicholas Winding Refn. Did you ever see Drive?
Yeah, I loved Drive, and this was not on my radar at all. You sent me this in a text, and I woke up and watched it, and I was I was struck by how good this looks.
Yeah, I was pretty blown away as well. I didn't necessarily love his last movie. I think was it Neon Demon, or was there something else in between that and this?
He didn't do that weird Thai movie with Ryan Gosling, did he?
Actually, I think maybe you're right. Maybe he did do that. Let me check.
Because that was a crazy movie that I watched, and I enjoyed it. But I did not see Neon Demon, although I did read the plot to it and come to I decided I did not want to watch it.
Yeah, that movie.
The conclusion is what I was thinking of.
The thing about his movies is that they're very attractively shot. They have a very cool aesthetic to them. Mm-hmm. And also, me and my friend Ryan, who did the music for our podcast, were talking about how Drive was sort of the movie that introduced synthwave to us. And so,
yeah, that's a good point.
It's kind of the first sort of pop culture thing that I can think of that really popularized that style of music.
That and also just like mixed, like the synthwave mixed with how he shoots his movies.
Yeah,
it give them like almost an ethereal feel.
Well, and it, like a lot of the movies include, especially Neon Demon, and to an extent, the trailer for Too Old to Die Young, have this very Lynchian, uncanny vibe to it that kind of reminds me of Twin Peaks in a way. Maybe that's just me, but I don't know. I am into it. It's another Amazon show. We talked, I think, on our last podcast about how Amazon has a lot of cool stuff coming up. And
that we haven't seen any stuff about.
Yeah, and they haven't really shown off anything. And then this one, which I don't think anyone was anticipating, I don't remember hearing anything about it. And then just all of a sudden, one day last week, a bunch of people started posting the trailer on Twitter. And I was like, oh man, this looks really good. And I did not even hear anything about this up to this point. So,
have you watched an Amazon show?
I have, yeah. Well, so I watch regularly the Grand Tour.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And I watched like older British sitcoms on Amazon Prime. Like I watched Spaced and Black Books on there. But other than like, I don't think I've really watched a lot of their original content, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I watched a TV show. I think it only had like 8 episodes, but it was called Forever with Fred Armisen.
Oh, yeah.
I think I remember telling you about that. And it was really good. It had Maya Rudolph in it as well. And I was like, what is this? I think I saw someone on Twitter saying like, man, episode to episode, I have no idea what is going to happen next in this show. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I watched the first episode and I was like, man, that was crazy. And then I watched the second episode and I was like, that was even crazier. And then I just kept saying that to myself, like, man, this is getting crazier. And it was really good. And I think that's having a second season. But that's the only Amazon original that I've watched. But the production quality was great. And it was like on par with a Netflix show. Yeah,
I think I've only seen like 2 or 3 episodes of that show. But it did strike me kind of like you were saying, similar to, what is that sitcom about heaven?
The Good Place?
Yeah, The Good Place. So it kind of reminded me, you know how at the end of every season of that show, the nature of things changes in some like really crazy way. And you're like, oh, how is this next season going to play out? It's like that, but at the end of every episode, basically.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
So, yeah, I need to go back and finish that show. I never finished it, but yeah, Amazon's got some interesting stuff coming up. I'm mainly interested by The Expanse. I guess that's
of course.
The other thing I've watched on Amazon Prime is The Expanse. But
we were talking about this before we started recording, but we're going to commit to this now. If they are releasing The Expanse on a week-by-week basis, like episodically, every week we will talk about that episode of Expanse, possibly in another podcast, possibly just part of this podcast, but look forward to that.
Yeah, we might just record an episode recap and publish that in the feed for this particular podcast, whether you're getting this on iTunes or YouTube. It'll just show up in there if we do that. But otherwise, what's the next one? Joker. Did you watch the Joker trailer?
Yes, I watched this trailer 2 or 3 times, actually. I am interested in this movie, I think.
I had a very similar reaction to the way you just said that. I'm like, man, this actually kind of looks good. It's still DC, and they've not done great. Also, it could possibly be a massive bummer.
That's my worry, is I'm worried that 3/4 of this movie are going to be him, or more worryingly, it's going to be like something like 6/7 or like 7/8 of this movie are going to be him just having a bad time in general and slowly unwinding. And then the very last part of the movie is going to be him finally going crazy. But I don't know. I mean, if it's kind of like a half and half, like the first half of the movie is him having kind of like doing his falling down type thing, and then the second half is him taking charge of his life. That is the more of like him being in charge, the better, I think. But my worry is that a majority of this movie he's not going to be in charge. It's going to be very sad.
I mean, it almost has to be just because of the nature of the story they're telling and the character that they're following. But yeah, this does look like a much more detailed character study than any superhero movie we've seen so far, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's not really a superhero. He's a villain, but and it remains to be seen how they're going to tie that into the rest of what's going on in the DC universe. But
because Affleck is out as Batman, and I think
they're almost going to reboot.
Is not Superman anymore. So if this is successful, do we see him in other Joker movies? Like, do we see him in the next Batman movie, you know?
That's the question going forward are they rebooting the DC franchise already? Because I know they're redoing Suicide Squad with James Gunn.
Yeah.
So that first Superman movie that came out was supposed to be like dark and gritty and character driven, and then it was just kind of not that good. This feels like them trying to go back and start over and do that over again, but do it right, maybe.
Yeah, I would be into that. I mean, maybe they've finally righted the ship and they're finally starting to realize they need to like slow down and do small things that lead up to big things. And that would be great. I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see how this goes. But if he is a compelling villain by the end of this, where you're like sympathetic to him, that makes the next Batman movie where he's supposed to be the villain super interesting to me.
Yeah, I was checking out who directed this, and apparently the writer-director of this is Todd Phillips, who's
The Hangover.
Yeah, the Hangover guy. So
that's interesting.
You'd think it would be more comedy, but taking a more serious tone. It could still be funny. The trailer just makes it seem a lot more serious than that. So,
do you like Joaquin Phoenix?
I do. I think he's a very talented actor. My initial concern when I heard he was being cast was, is he too old? But then again, like, how old is the Joker? It doesn't matter. He can be as old or young as whatever. Because I mean, Jack Nicholson played him in the Tim Burton one. I don't remember how old he was at the time, but
probably super old.
Yeah, so I think he'll be good for sure, and he does tend to be more choosy with the roles he takes on. So I would imagine that he wouldn't have signed on if he didn't have like a compelling script in his hands. So I feel like it's probably a fairly safe bet.
Zach, do you like Dave Bautista?
He's the new The Rock. He's the new Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I don't know that anyone can replace Dwayne The Rock Johnson for me. But I do love Dave Bautista. He was great in Blade Runner. Even though he had a small part, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, he was very good in that. And that was like a more serious role as compared to his role in Game of Thrones.
You got it on the mind.
I do have it on the mind. Guardians of the Galaxy is what I was trying to say. He's very funny in that. And these movies look more in line with that. He's in 2 movies. The first one's called My Spy, which looks very much like the kind of role that Dwayne Johnson would have done 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, you got to do this part before you do the other stuff.
Yeah, like the Disney stuff he did. And then the other one that came out a little bit more recently is called Stuber. And it's got Kumail Nanjiani, who you might remember from Silicon Valley, playing an Uber driver who picks up Dave Bautista, and Dave Bautista's a cop who's like tracking down this killer, and so he gets sort of press ganged into driving him around to all these crazy things.
Yeah, it's like a comedy version of Collateral, is what I've heard on. Like someone said that on Twitter.
That is a good way to describe it. It looks a lot like just a comedy version of that movie. So I'm down. I would watch it.
Of these two, I'm more interested in Stuber because I like Kumail Nanjiani.
Me too.
And I like movies that take place all in one night. I think is a trope that I enjoy.
That's pretty fun as well. Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna watch this My Spy one just because I don't super like kid actors.
Yeah.
But Zach, did you like Your Name?
I did watch. Not. I was gonna say My Name. I did watch Your Name.
Call Me by Your Name, Zach. But the guy who made that is making another movie, and they just released a trailer for it.
I have not seen this yet, so talk over it and I will watch.
It's got great music, so you should definitely watch it again when we're not recording and listen to the music, because it has another one of those like classic songs like Your Name that I'm sure is going to be very emotional. But as far as I can tell, based on this trailer, yeah, I don't speak Japanese and is not subtitled. What I can glean from this is there is a boy who is maybe homeless, living in probably Tokyo, and a girl who is somehow of the rain or controls the weather in some way. Or is a cloud? I'm not sure.
She is a cloud. Did you run the description through Google Translate?
No, did you?
No. We should.
Let's do it. Let's do it live.
I'm doing it right now.
I didn't see the button for it. Oh, you're just copy and pasting, I bet.
Yeah. Actually, when you highlight it, a little button pops up to translate it.
Oh my God, we're living in the future?
It was just telling me that the music is by Radwimps, who did the music in Your Name.
Weathering with You is what this is called in America. Lay that plot on me, Zach.
Oh, it's literally just describing the credits, basically. And then it basically says Weathering with You or whatever. So
I'm excited for this, though.
No description, sadly. But yeah, it looks, I mean, I like the animation for sure. I mean, if you like anime in general, you'll like it. But I don't know. If it's more like Your Name, I'm definitely interested. So
I love a romantic comedy or drama with supernatural elements. And this seems like another one of those. Your Name is a great example of that. That's why I've watched it. I think I watched it 3 times because it's just so good. And also I just downloaded it, so I have it. But
did you ever read 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami?
No.
That's one that you might enjoy then, because I think it is also a romance that involves some supernatural elements, or maybe supernatural elements.
Give me the elevator pitch for that.
The description of the book is a young woman named, I can't say that name, follows a taxi driver's enigmatic suggestion and begins to notice puzzling discrepancies in the world around her. She has entered a parallel existence, which she calls 1Q84. Q is for question mark, a world that bears a question. Meanwhile, this is not well written, this description. Meanwhile, an aspiring writer named Tango takes on a...
Tango?
I think there was another character that he had called Tango as well. I think he just likes that name. Anyway... An aspiring writer named Tango takes on a suspect ghostwriting project. He becomes so wrapped up in the work and its unusual author that soon his previously placid life begins to come unraveled. Basically, it does that thing where it follows 2 different characters over a long time, and then eventually they start to converge until they meet each other, and they kind of... It's like she's trapped in this other universe that's sort of layered over top of the real world. And
the Upside Down.
Yeah, kind of like that, I guess, but less creepy. And it's kind of a love story. They sort of realize that they're like sort of star-crossed or whatever.
I am very interested in that. I'll take a look at that.
It's very long, I will say.
Zach, speaking of anime, because we were just talking about Weathering with You, which we'll have more information on when we figure out what it's about, but I'm going to say definitively that she is a cloud. There was some casting news for Cowboy Bebop, the live-action television show on Netflix.
I'm going to have to re-sub to Netflix when this comes out.
Well, I don't know, Zach. Will you? Because I'm super worried about this. I like the casting a lot, but have always been worried about anime transitioning into live action.
I guess that's a fair point, yeah. They did such a poor job with Death Note.
And Ghost in a Shell.
And Bleach.
Yeah, Bleach was... I only saw a trailer for that, but I was not interested in watching it. But so John Cho, who by all accounts is a cool guy, is going to be Spike Spiegel. I think he can pull it off. He's like a cool... Yeah. I could see him like doing some like cool fluid kung fu and just like chilling out. And I've not heard of the girl who's playing Faye, but she is a girl. Does this article not tell me her name? Daniela Pineda. Pineda?
I don't know who that is.
She's from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which I did not see.
It was so bad. I saw it like a couple weeks ago.
And then Jet Black is played by Mustafa Shakir from Luke Cage season 2, which I have not gotten around to watching, but he seems like a cool guy, and he's going to be Jet Black. This was like the first anime I ever watched, and it was super good. I remember there was an issue of Entertainment Weekly, which my dad would always get, and it had like a big, like huge feature on Adult Swim because it was finally becoming a thing. It's like, oh, check out Adult Swim. It's going to happen it's going to be on Saturday. It's going to be only for adults. And Cowboy Bebop was one of the main things on there. And the first episode just like blew me away. I don't know about you, but like Cowboy Bebop and Trigun hold this like really high place in my like pantheon of animes.
Yeah, it's way up there. It's so cool the way they've done the style of the show. Just if you've not seen Cowboy Bebop, just like YouTube the intro to Cowboy Bebop because it's like this awesome 60s throwback music thing that they do, and it's so cool. And it's also like it's very similar to Outlaw Star, if you remember that show.
So good.
Those are the two for me. I don't remember Trigun as well, but like Cowboy Bebop and Outlaw Star are like some of the early anime shows that I liked a lot.
It's so hard to watch Outlaw Star right now. I think you have to have the Funimation app, which I don't have. For a while it was on Crunchyroll, but now the only way to watch it is via Funimation.
Yeah, I wanted to watch it again recently, and I think I saw it was on Amazon, but you'd have to buy it. So I did not end up watching it, sadly.
But what do you think about this? They have not talked about casting Ed, which I think is very telling because I'm not sure how they could do that and it not be terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that you don't have a reason to be concerned or cause for concern about them doing a live action anime because some things are just so anime that you almost can't do them as live action.
Like, how do you do that? Because like it can't just be the insane whimsical creature that Ed is in the like anime. It has to be grounded in, I don't know. I mean, do you just get some insane child actor to just go crazy?
Well, yeah, but that's almost the problem, right? Because we were just talking about child actors and
yeah, exactly.
Like how we don't generally like them. So it'll be very hard, but they're going to have
something
to nail
else that I'm worried about. The other bit of casting news is Alex Hassel, who I've never heard of before, is playing Vicious, who is like Spike's nemesis throughout the whole series, but it never pops up. And so I'm worried that they're going to rush things and like season 1 is going to conclude with the giant like fight with Vicious, and Vicious is just going to be like just the villain in season 1. We're not going to have these like cool filler episodes like, oh, there's something in the refrigerator, or that insane one with that like Jacques, or like that Frenchman who was like flying around and some sort of like experiment, or the one with that kid who is like an immortal because he watched a crazy space gate blow up or whatever. Remember that one?
That's the thing. I do think they'll end up cutting out all of the fun like side stories.
That's a bummer because they could make seasons and seasons of this. They have so much material, and I'm worried they're just going to they're worried that they're only going to have one season, so they're just going to condense the entire story into one season. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for this. I really, really want to see a trailer. Did we talk about that Hood Cowboy Bebop that came out like maybe a month or 2 months ago?
No.
Man, that was such a good... These guys probably in LA made this like basically music video for Cowboy Bebop, and they got the tone.
I remember that. I think we did talk about it very briefly.
I loved that.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Like, that's what I want. I want, like, they need to, like, here's something else. Do you think they're going to have Tank as the opening theme song? They have to, right?
They have to. The thing is, it's so, like, the style of the show is so specific, and the thing that makes the show what it is. So they have to go all in on that.
Yeah. I don't know. I am eagerly anticipating a trailer for this, but, I mean, if we just had casting news now, who's to say?
Yeah, they're probably not ready.
I assume this is going to be very effects heavy. Like, they're going to have to build sets for this. So we're probably not going to get a trailer maybe until next year. Considering
they're just going over the casting news, they are probably not ready to show anything yet.
But we'll see. So it's picked up for 10 episodes. Oh, hold on a second. Yeah. It's picked up for 10 episodes.
Did they give a release window or no?
No, I don't think so. But that Watanabe, what's that guy's name? Yeah, Shinichiro Watanabe, who created the original, is a consulting producer on this one. So hopefully he will give his input and good things will come to pass. But we shall see.
Next up,
some video game stuff.
Some video game stuff. We're like almost half hour into this thing, and we haven't even talked about video games yet. So the next Assassin's Creed game will center around Vikings.
That's what the report says. I think there was, I forget.
I think in the Division 2.
In the Division 2, there was like a subtle hint about it.
Yeah, I think there was like a poster on the wall somewhere in some part of the game that people were finding that looked like an Assassin's Creed poster, but it was a Viking on the cover.
Do you think that this is happening because of God of War?
I mean, maybe. Maybe their God of War stole their thunder, so maybe they're just... they like traded spaces. Do you think this was like some sort of industry agreement? Like, hey, let's swap places.
But this is interesting. I assume boat combat is going to come back in a big way because Vikings are all about boats.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have not played an Assassin's Creed game, except for that Project Stream thing we did, which I played maybe 15 minutes of. I'm not super well versed in the lore, but I mean, I don't know. Assassin's Creed is generally well liked and people are super into it, so...
Yeah, I mean, they're solid open world action adventure games. And if you're super into the story that they're telling, which I played the first 2.5 Assassin's Creed and I never got super into the story, but I did think that the combat and open world stuff was fun. I haven't played anything outside of the like 10 hours of Project Stream that I played of the latest one, but generally speaking, it's moving more in an RPG direction, which is awesome. So they seem more up my alley now than they were even back when the first couple were released. But yeah, I've been so out of the loop on them for so long that it's just one of those titles that also comes out so often that I just feel like I've kind of missed the boat on them. And so I've been kind of hesitant to dive in on any of them.
Yeah, they iterate so quickly. That's why I said maybe God of War, because maybe around that time they were like, all right, let's start up the machine for the next Assassin's Creed. And like everyone was super into Norse stuff. So they're like, let's do that, you know? I think a thing that would get me to play it again is if they went somewhere in Asia, because I have been so close. I want to play that Ghost of Tsushima, and I've been watching people play Sekiro, and I don't really play Souls games, but I want that experience of just like stealth killing people and running around pagodas and stuff. And I feel like if the next Assassin's Creed game, there's a lot of lore. They've never gone Eastern before, I don't think. So that would be super interesting to me. Yeah,
that would also pull me back in. I think Origins was in Egypt, and I considered jumping into that game, but I was also like, I would probably be more in on this game if this was somewhere other than Egypt. Like, I don't have anything against Egypt, but I want that like East Asian, like ancient times game or whatever.
I want that, like, we talked about it when, I don't remember what we were talking about. I think we were talking about Ghost of Tsushima, but I used to play that Tenchu game on like PS2 a ton. I would just replay that first level over and over again and like get super tight on it. And I want just like sneaking around on like tile roofs and like dropping down on people, which is why Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is interesting to me, but I don't think I would like the boss fights.
Yeah, I've also been kind of tempted by that game at times, but I know I would get it like 5 hours into that game and get stuck and be like, oh, I'm not having any fun with this anymore. But yeah, I don't know. What's a game that's like Assassin's Creed that is set in Asia? Is there one?
I'm trying to think. Like, it would be a ninja game. It would have to be.
The thing that I think of is, what was that For Honor game that was like some fantasy mashup of Vikings and knights and samurai. And I specifically got into playing that game because I was like, oh man, I want samurai combat. And so that was basically all I did with that game, was just like play the samurai warriors or whatever. That didn't have the staying power, though. If they had like a good long story and it was like an open world game, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. More Ubisoft news. Watch Dogs 3, according to a report, is going to be set in London.
Yeah, how did they end up leaking this one?
I don't know, but I remember at the end of Watch Dogs 2, them saying like, oh, we're expanding to such and such, and London. And I was like, oh yeah, it's totally going to be London. Because London is like in current times known as like the CCTV capital of the world. There's like so many cameras everywhere in England. So it just makes sense.
What are the odds that the trailer has London Calling playing in the background?
Ooh. Or that London Bridge song.
I feel like there are plenty of songs that are super on the nose that will definitely end up in the game or like in the trailer.
I love Watch Dogs games. I love the first one. It had app integration where like someone could be on their phone kind of playing with you and kind of directing what you're doing, which was very cool. And Watch Dogs 2, both of them had that cool invasion mechanic that I really enjoyed. I loved the story of Watch Dogs 2 because it was basically a sequel to the movie Hackers. I hope that you're like another young group of teens in this and not like a stoic tough guy. Like, what was the guy's name in Watch Dogs 1? It was something really dumb. It was like Aiden Pierce, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's right. That's one of the Ubisoft characters. It has to be.
But I'm into this. I cannot wait for them to... Like, they added the drone in Watch Dogs 2, which was a very cool thing. It's basically Assassin's Creed with, like, a ton more gadgets because it's set in modern times and, like, free running and whatnot. But I don't know. I'm super into this series, and so I can't wait. Could this be something we see at E3 2019? I think so.
For sure. I think the article that we have linked says that they expect it to be fully revealed at E3. So,
oh my God, I cannot wait for E3.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played the previous two Watch Dogs, but I would definitely play one if it is like you're describing, where it's basically Assassin's Creed, but in modern times and set in London. That seems very cool to me.
Double-decker buses, probably. We've never seen that in a video game.
Yes, we have. You could drive a double-decker bus in Cruisin' World.
Oh, Cruisin' World.
That's fun. It was hilarious because you had race cars and then you had the double-decker bus, and it was like me and my brother would both choose that and just try to block everyone so they couldn't even drive on the same road. So, strats. Anyway, let's move on to Star Wars Celebration that starts on Thursday. And we're anticipating an episode 9 trailer?
Yeah, traditionally, Star Wars Celebration is where we get the trailer for the next Star Wars film. I would anticipate we're going to get at least a trailer description, because they're probably definitely going to show it there, but I don't know if they're going to release it on the internet. But a trailer for episode 9, because I'm pretty sure it's been done shooting for a while, which will be exciting. Possibly more exciting, though, we're finally going to get the reveal of Fallen Order, which at last E3, there was like a weird thing where the guy who was making it was just like, hey, we're making it, stay tuned. So there's an official live stream. It's going to happen April 13th, which is, I want to say Saturday. Wait, is that true? Yeah, it's going to be Saturday at 1:30 p.m. Central, I believe. So you can tune in. We'll have a link in the show notes and watch whatever this is going to be. But are you excited for a Star Wars game?
Yeah, it's been a while since there's been like a really good Star Wars game. And I used to like them back in the day on like the original Xbox generation. There were so many fun Star Wars games. And then they just kind of all disappeared. We had like the Force Awakens. No, not Force Awakens. What was it? What were those games?
I know which one you're talking about. The one where you're like a shaved head guy, right?
Yeah. What is the name of that game?
Force Unleashed.
Yes, that one. I played the first one. I don't know if I ever played the second one or not, but those were kind of fun, but they were fairly shallow. Like they weren't very long.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would look forward to a cool new Star Wars game, even though I'm not super into the movie franchise at this point. But what about you?
I don't know. I've never played a Star Wars game before, except for like the Super Nintendo ones, way back in the day.
Yeah, you're going real old school.
Like you. Yeah, I'm not super invested in Star Wars lore in general. Yeah. Like I like the original movies, and I liked Force Awakens, and Last Jedi was fine, but it had some glaring logical issues. But just like the universe is still cool to me. But I don't know. It's not something that I'm like super drawn to. Like if there was a Lord of the Rings game, there have been Lord of the Rings games that I've just been like, all right, whatever. This is like a cool universe, but I'm not super engaged with it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe they'll show the trailer and it'll be amazing. Like I totally would have played that remember that crazy canceled Star Wars game that was going to be like on a certain level of Coruscant?
Yeah, it was
like 1313.
Yeah, Star Wars 1313, and it was supposed to be like an Uncharted game in the Star Wars universe.
Now that's something I'm super interested in.
Yeah.
But we don't know. I mean, it very well could be something like this where this is completely narrative and has no multiplayer elements, which I'd be very interested in. But I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what type of game it is, I guess. But if it really looks very cool, I would definitely be on board to play it. At this point, I'm more excited to see what that game is than I am the next movie. And that's weird because it used to be the other way around. But
well, I mean, J.J. Abrams is coming back for that third one. So who can say how crazy this third one is going to be?
It's too messed up now.
You might be right.
I mean, I don't know if he can salvage it. He might be able to retcon some stuff, but
like all it's going to be is the opening crawl is going to say like, forget about what just happened. Actually,
yeah,
these things took place and Leia is now dead.
The crawl is, remember Force Awakens? Well, we're moving on from there.
Shortly after Force Awakens, this is happening.
This is what actually happened as Rey wakes up from a weird dream she had.
Something else we should talk about. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I saw a report that there's going to be a Nintendo Direct this Thursday because this is the week that Reggie is officially retiring and kind of handing the keys to Doug Bowser. So people are speculating that there's going to be a Nintendo Direct where we're going to get maybe some Metroid news or Animal Crossing, and they're going to do a fun little gag where the two of them are like, well, it's now you're in charge or whatever. But it could be happening on Thursday. That's just what the rumor was, but I guess we'll see. What do you think about that?
If they're going to have some new game stuff, I'm very interested in that. It could be fun to see like a skit that they do where they're literally passing the torch to to Doug Bowser. But
he hasn't been in a skit yet. So like it remains to be seen like what the tone is going to be, if they're going to really like lean into him being named Bowser.
Yeah, I kind of hope they do, just because it's like it's too perfect that he just happens to be named Bowser, but they could avoid it altogether. Well, I hope they don't.
Yeah, it could be like, actually it's pronounced Bowser or something.
Bowser Jr. He should name his kid that.
He should. Should we get into what we've been playing / watching?
We should. I have not been doing a whole lot lately, so you can take it away because you got several things on here.
So I've still been playing Baba Is You, and it's been great. I have it on Switch, but it's also available on Steam. A lot of the puzzles are too difficult for me, but I can beat enough of them that I continue to progress world to world. And I just unlocked every world on the main map, and then you have to do something crazy to get into the bonus stages. And I just got into the bonus stages, and each level of the bonus stages flips the script in a crazy way. And it's just it's very interesting and very fun to check out these bonus levels. And a lot of them are still too hard for me, but I am still able to turn the game on every night and get through at least one. So
that's the thing that's holding me back from jumping into this game, because I've heard a lot of people praising this game, and it's only $15 on the Switch, and it would just be
it's crazy cheap,
something to pick up and play every once in a while. So it seems pretty perfect, but my fear is that I'm gonna get into it and I'm gonna see a whole bunch of really challenging puzzles and not be able to progress, and I'll just feel stupid and not want to play it anymore. In
general, I think anyone can beat every level in the first 3 worlds, and then starting at maybe the end of the 3rd world, it starts to get, you don't have to beat every zone in the world in order to get to progress, because you're collecting petals of a flower basically. But I'll tell you, it's very satisfying, because I've been stuck on one for hours. And I'll just I'll log off and I'll log back on and I'll try that one and I can't do it, and I'll beat some other ones and I'll come back to it. And when you finally figure it out, it's very satisfying.
Yeah, I guess I have heard that it's one of those games where you put it down for a while and then when you come back to it, it'll like suddenly click and you'll get it and you'll feel really smart for figuring it out.
It is. It's super good. It's one of the best puzzle games I've played, I guess, period, ever.
My fear was that it was going to be kind of like Return of the Obra Dinn, where like people were talking about how great that game was. And so I just sort of on a whim got it on Steam and started playing it. And that game is super, like, it doesn't really tell you where to go and what to do next. And so you kind of have to muddle through and figure out what's going on. And so I just kind of like got to a point where I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing, and I felt kind of like, well, everybody else figured this out, so am I just stupid? And so I didn't. So I was like, Baba Is You might be one of those games where I get stuck on it and feel stupid again, so I don't want that. But
something else I've been playing, I talked about it already on the podcast, but Satisfactory is officially out, and I got it on the Epic Store, and man, every time I play it, I play for like 5 to 6 hours, and I like, it's to such an extent that I've played the main, like we started a new world when the beta actually came out, was for sale, and I think we've played twice, and each time it's been like for 6 hours, and we've almost burned through everything in the beta. Probably the next time we play, we haven't touched oil at all, but probably the next time we play, we will have completed everything there is to complete currently in the beta. But they have plans to like constantly be upgrading stuff. But man, I have so much fun playing Satisfactory, and I think we're going to make a little video about it after this.
yeah, maybe even before this podcast goes up, or the video will already be out. So be on the lookout for that on our YouTube channel. We should say it's one of those games where you're building and crafting stuff, right?
Yeah, it's like Factorio, except you know what it is the reason I was super into it. Back in the day, I used to play a ton of Tekkit. Do you know what that is? Tekkit was like a mod pack for Minecraft where you could, it like added tons of stuff. It basically collected a bunch of different mods and made them work together. So like there were mods where you could create like blocks that would instantly like smell things. There would be like conveyor belts and things like that, and just like crazy stuff like automated miners and just like really interesting stuff. It gave you goals, which is something I loved Minecraft, but like you weren't really working towards anything, or at least early on before they added like the end and whatnot. And so this gave you like, you could build a functioning particle accelerator in Minecraft, and there was like ways to do it. You had to like go on the wiki to figure out exactly how to place the blocks. But I love stuff like that. And this is basically that. This is basically Tekkit, but like not Minecraft. And I would not say more complex, because Tekkit, like even now, is being updated to be crazy complex. But it's basically like that. You're finding resources. You're finding more efficient ways to like produce them into like first tier stuff and second tier stuff. And then eventually you like make a space elevator, and then you're sending stuff up. And like every time you deposit a certain number of things, you can unlock the next tier of technology, up and up and up, until you have like jetpacks and stuff. And it's super fun, and we'll do a little video on it. Yeah, it might already be out by the time this podcast happens. But
how essential does the co-op feel?
You know, that's a good question, because part of it is fun to play with people. It's kind of like playing Legos together, where you're all just like working on your own thing, but you're in the same area.
Yeah.
But part of it is also just like, I have been feeling this itch to just log in and start my own world and just design the perfect factory, like the most efficient factory. Because you'll see when I show it to you, but we kind of just like slap stuff together, and stuff is like efficient. We've done the math to make sure stuff is efficient, but there is definitely a better way to lay stuff out. And there's so many different ways to do things also. So I think probably after we complete everything in the beta, I'm going to start my own single player world and just like I already have some plans that I wrote down of things that I want to change. Like I'm going to actually make like specific buildings for specific things and things like that. I watched some tutorials on like ways to increase efficiency, but I would say the co-op is super, super, super fun, and it's very fun to play with friends, but you can have fun by yourself as well if you just want something to like listen to a podcast to.
Yeah, I was going to say, it does sound like a good podcast game, or
it's a perfect podcast
game that you could just sort of unwind for like a few hours at the end of the night and like turn on a podcast or something.
It's so good. And also another thing about it, the world isn't like randomly generated like a lot of other games. It's one map, and you can choose 3 different starting areas. But because it's the one map, exploring is a real benefit. Like they've created all these interesting things for you to find, including like crashed ships, which have like hard drives you can get, and just like weird little things you can come upon. So like exploring really matters in that game, which I think is really interesting. And you would expect it to just be a randomly generated world, but because it's not, like you can come upon a crazy cave system that has like a reward at the end of it if you decide to go through all of it.
That sounds pretty cool. I might actually look into this game pretty soon.
Yeah, I'll show it to you after this. But so the other thing I want to talk about, Enter the Gungeon had its final update, A Farewell to Arms. They're not going to be updating the game anymore. This was originally going to be another paid DLC, but they were just like, no, we're just going to give it away for free and start working on our next project. And I logged in, I played a little bit of it. It adds a new game mode. You have to find the guy in the Gungeon to unlock it, but it adds this like random start game mode where you can get like a random item at the beginning. It also adds 2 new characters. One of them seems very hard to unlock, so I'll probably never unlock him. But this is a great game, and now it's like it's as complete as it's ever going to be. And I think it's on sale right now for like $8 on Steam.
Oh, really?
Maybe on Switch as well. So like I own this on Switch and Steam because it's just a great game to pick up and play like one run of. And what can happen in the run varies so widely just because the amount of guns that are finally in it, amount of guns and items, I should say. You can have crazy broken runs where I had like a water gun that is usually not great, but then I got an item that makes all of the bullets bounce almost infinitely and also like set things on fire. So I would just like spray once and then a huge constant stream would just bounce around the room and kill things, which was very satisfying. But Enter the Gungeon is great. A Farewell to Arms is a great final farewell to it. So definitely check that out.
Well, I have not been playing a whole lot lately. I have, however, watched the first 2 episodes of Barry Season 2, which is now out on HBO. And you watched the first season, right?
Yeah, I had HBO while Westworld Season 2 was happening, and Barry Season 1 was happening during that. So I watched, like, by the time I heard about it, like 6 episodes had aired. So I watched the first 6 episodes, and I was hooked. And it's great. I wish I was watching it right now, but I don't have HBO. I am eagerly anticipating having HBO again because I probably will binge watch this. How has the second season been?
The first 2 episodes have been really good. The writing in the show is very good. It does a good job of mixing humor and more serious stuff. It like intermingles that in a way that works really well. Not every show is able to nail that. Like a lot of shows try for it, but don't necessarily pull it off. But yeah, it's a dark comedy created by Bill Hader and Alec Berg. And Bill Hader plays this assassin, and he moves to LA and he wants to get out of that business. And so he's supposed to kill somebody from like an acting class, and he goes to the acting class and ends up getting like super into the acting class himself. And so he kind of befriends all of those people, and the fact that he's a hitman on the side is sort of complicates everything around him and constantly sort of puts different people in danger. And so he's kind of trying to stay like one step ahead of everybody. So it's a very fun, interesting show. And I highly recommend it. You should definitely catch up with the first season and then start watching season 2. I won't spoil anything about season 2 because I know you want to watch it. But if you're like a Game of Thrones subscriber who's queuing up your subscribe for HBO just because Game of Thrones is coming out, you should definitely take the time to binge Barry while you're at it. So it's a great show. Highly recommend it. Aaron, give us your parting wisdom.
Zach, everybody loves
Raymond?
Break Apart. What?
Raymond? You said everybody loves.
Everybody loves Raymond. You're right, Zach. I'm sorry I didn't catch that. Everybody loves Break Apart chocolate chip cookies made by Toll House. We can all agree on that, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if you cut out or you just had nothing to say to that.
Well, you did cut out a little bit, but I was able to piece enough of it together that I was able to agree.
I saw a cooking video that suggested broiling your chocolate chip cookies for like a minute before actually baking them, because it gives them a, you know how if you make cookies, the centers will sort of deflate as they're cooling. This prevents that. So get some Toll House chocolate chunk cookies, put them on a baking sheet, broil them for like a minute so they start popping up and get a little crusty on top. Take them out and then put it back down at like 350 or whatever it recommends. Give it time to cool down a little bit, and then put them back in, cook them for the amount of time, and then when you take them out, they won't deflate and they'll be a really good consistency.
Interesting. Have you done this?
Yes, and it's very good.
I haven't had cookies in a while, but now I kind of want some.
I have been buying a lot of Break Apart cookies for whatever reason recently, just because I realized I could, and so I have just been doing it.
There's always that moment where you're like, you know what? I could just buy cookies. And
I don't know why I'm not, you know?
What have I been doing with my life?
I go to the grocery store every week.
Yeah, why am I not buying cookies? But
anyway, that was my wisdom, so follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, my wisdom is follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Starside Cafe, and send us an email with questions, comments, or discussion topics at starsidecafe@gmail.com. And also check out our website, starsidecafe.com. We post reviews and recommendations for TV shows and movies and games and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, follow us in all the places, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.